Hi, my name is Chaley and I've been attending Cities Church since summer of 2020 with my husband. Growing up, my family and I attended a Catholic church on holidays, and shortly after my father passed away, we started attending more regularly. But life got busy and it became less of a priority. As I got older, I started to feel the strain of losing my father more and more. Getting into high school, I started searching for things to make my identity, and I felt a huge missing piece in my life. I started to numb the pain of grief and depression from losing my dad with drinking and partying a lot. As a result, I started to develop problems with self-harm, intense depressive episodes, and even suicidal thoughts, and I had isolated myself from any type of help. I remember one particularly hard evening. I was so desperate that I picked up a Bible that I had got at a summer camp and started to read it. I got on my knees and I began to start praying to God to just give me some relief from the depression that I've been feeling, and I thought if there was a God, it was definitely worth a try. I pleaded with God for multiple nights in a row. Looking back, I know that He heard my desperate cries and was calling me closer to Him. One of these nights, I reached out to my grandma and I told her that I needed help, that I needed to go to a church. She set up a meeting with someone from the church that she was attending. From the moment that I entered the church, I began to sob. I felt Jesus surround me. The woman that I met with instructed me to read Psalm 139, so I started doing that every day. As I continued to read that chapter every day, I started to feel a peace that I didn't quite understand. I still hadn't given my life to the Lord, and I hadn't gotten the opportunity to do so. A few years later, in 2019, I moved to Brandon. By this time, I stopped praying and reading my Bible, and whatever peace I found in Jesus had faded. And once again, I found myself in a desperate situation. At this time, I had one Christian friend, and she was away on a missions trip. She shared with me all the amazing things God was doing in her life. I didn't know it at the time, but while she was away, she was praying that I would have a relationship with God. I didn't even know you could have a real relationship with God. While this was happening in my life, someone else was doing the same thing for my husband. And I began to grow more and more curious about this God thing that my friend was sharing. Every time I felt like my depression was growing, I felt my desire for God growing even bigger. I decided to start a Bible reading plan. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just started. My husband thought it was a little odd that I had started to do this. One day while I was reading, the Bible plan said to pray for someone that I know to come to know Jesus. So again, not really knowing what I was doing, I prayed that prayer. And a few days later, my husband, who had been a devout atheist for his whole life, came to me and asked me to pray for him. And I was shocked that God really hears my prayers. Having never prayed for someone else out loud before, I felt so intimidated, but I can imagine God was so delighted to hear from us. The prayer that I prayed was short but powerful. The very next day, my atheist husband started reading his Bible from the front. I knew that something really weird was happening now. My husband's coworker invited us to a small church in town, and they were so excited to have us. In the first few weeks that we were there, the pastor preached on Psalm 139, the very same scripture I used to read every day. The pastor did an altar call for every service for 2 months, waiting for me and my husband to come to the Lord. And one day, with our eyes closed, the Lord tugged on our hearts, and at the same moment, we gave our lives to Jesus. God was calling us closer to Him. We didn't know what that meant or who God was or anything about the Bible, but we knew that there was something so real about what we were searching for. We felt a tug to check out Cities Church Brandon, and from that day in 2020, we've attended almost every single Sunday service. This is our home. I got baptized here. I grew to know and love Jesus. I fell in love with serving Him. God has transformed my life, and He has made me a completely new and unrecognizable person. He called me to sobriety, called me to motherhood, called me to ministry. He called me to greater life. And I'm so glad He did. And if He can do it for me, He can do it for anyone.